Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities.
The El Paso Las Cruces community.
The year is 1995. You wake up, grab your newspaper, and trust what you read. Your news sources are clear. Your information reliable. Fast forward to today, media manipulation has unleashed a tsunami of misinformation that's washing away truth in its path. This isn't conspiracy theory anymore. This is happening right now. According to research, 6 major corporations control 90% of American media. That's not just a statistic. That's your information, your worldview, and maybe even your reality. And they choose your reality by the emotion that's most profitable: fear.
We want to make sure that people can discern the truth from the misinformation. And we want to make sure that everyone understands that no one's safe till everyone's safe.
No one is 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 safe.
Nobody's safe.
No one is safe.
Nobody is safe.
This is a post 9/11 axiom. Safer, but not yet safe.
No one is safe. No one is safe.
So why fear? Studies have shown that humans have a psychological bias toward negative news. We're wired to pay more attention to threats. It's a survival instinct. The media exploits this by bombarding us with crime reports, economic collapses, pandemics, and war coverage, ensuring we stay hooked in a constant state of anxiety. But here's the kicker. They're not just reporting the news. They're choosing what to show, how to frame it, and how often to repeat it. Ever noticed how every election is the most important in history?
This election is the most important in the modern history of this country.
The election in 2020, without hyperbole, is going to be the most important election this country has undergone in over 100 years. Not a joke.
This November's elections are more important than any I can remember in my lifetime, and that includes when I was on the ballot.
There are just 8 days left in what is the most important election of our lifetimes.
This will be maybe the most important election that our country's ever had.
There's never been a more important tomorrow in modern electoral history in the United States than tomorrow, and that's not hyperbole.
We know what is on the line and what is the truly most important election of our lifetime. Has anybody ever said that to you before?
This election is the most important election in our lifetimes, no matter what generation you come from.
And every flu season is the worst we've ever seen. And every new technology is a danger to society. The goal isn't to inform you. The goal is to make you afraid, so you become dependent on their version of reality. A fearful audience is easier to manipulate. But here's what they don't want you to know. Not all media is created equal in the eyes of truth. Some sources are standing on quicksand, while others are built on bedrock. Today, we're going to reveal which is which and how you can protect yourself from becoming brainwashed in the age of media manipulation. Welcome to Media Brainwashing Exposed. And the truth? It will shock you. I hope you brought your critical thinking skills. Throughout human history, information has always been controlled. When the printing press emerged in the 1400s, it transformed society forever. Books replaced oral traditions, newspapers replaced town criers, and millions gained access to information previously reserved for elites. But what we're experiencing now, it's different. It's more sophisticated. It's more persuasive. Media experts predict that by 2027, almost all news consumption will be filtered through algorithms designed to keep you engaged rather than informed. We're talking about billions of people receiving carefully curated content designed not to educate, but to manipulate emotions and behavior. And unlike previous information revolutions that primarily democratize knowledge, today's media landscape is coming for something we thought was uniquely human: our ability to discern truth. Let me paint you a picture of what's already happening. In recent years, major news networks proudly displayed identical scripts read by dozens of local anchors across America, creating the illusion of independent reporting while delivering centrally controlled messaging. They weren't hiding it. They were normalizing it.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
In a now viral video, anchors from Sinclair news stations read the same promotional script denouncing so-called false news.
Meanwhile, in social media, 7 out of 10 Americans now get their news from platforms designed to maximize engagement through emotional triggers rather than factual reporting. That's not some far-off prediction. That's today's reality. But here's where it gets truly terrifying. The manipulation most prevalent isn't what you'd expect. It's not just fake news or obvious propaganda anymore. It's the subtle framing of real events, the strategic omission of context, the psychological triggers embedded in headlines. As media expert Noam Chomsky revealed, the smart way to keep people passive and obedient is to strictly limit the spectrum of acceptable opinion, but allow very lively debate within that spectrum. That's right. Your perception of having diverse news sources might be the final illusion in your media consumption. Why is this happening? Because media now excels at exactly what manipulation requires, triggering emotions, exploiting cognitive biases, and creating addiction to content. Think about it. What does a traditional journalist do? They report facts and provide context. What does today's media ecosystem do? It optimizes for engagement, regardless of informational value. What does an ethical news source do? It separates facts from opinion and presents multiple perspectives. What does corporate media do? It blurs these lines while creating the illusion of debate, only faster, more emotionally charged, and increasingly more polarizing. The pattern is clear. If your news consumption involves emotional reactions rather than thoughtful reflection, manipulation has you in its crosshairs. Does this sound familiar? Michael, a lifelong news junkie who prided himself on being well-informed. For 15 years, he built his understanding of the world through cable news and social media. I thought I was getting the full picture, he says. Then I traveled abroad and discovered how differently the same events were reported outside my media bubble. Within 6 months, his entire worldview had shifted. The worst part, he says, was realizing that I hadn't been thinking for myself. I'd been adopting pre-packaged opinions I thought were my own. Michael's story isn't unique. It's becoming the norm. According to research, the average American is exposed to thousands of media messages daily, with algorithms determining which 1% they actually see. That's not some distant future. That's today's reality. And it's not just about misinformation. It's about the fundamental reshaping of our society, our democracy, and our ability to find common ground. When media manipulates rather than informs, what hope is there for shared truth? But before you throw your devices out the window and move to a cabin in the woods, there's something crucial you need to understand. Not all media sources are equally manipulative. Some outlets actually strive for objectivity. Others are transparent about their biases. And you can develop skills to navigate this landscape. So, which news sources are truly trustworthy in this era of manipulation? Let's break it down. First, let's look at the media sources that are most likely to manipulate. Highly partisan cable news networks. They prioritize emotional engagement over factual reporting. Social media news feeds. Algorithms show you what keeps you engaged, not what keeps you informed. Clickbait websites. Headlines designed to trigger emotions rather than accurately summarize content. Outlets owned by major conglomerates. 6 corporations control 90% of American media. Sources that never criticize their own side. Real journalism holds power accountable regardless of politics. Content that makes you consistently angry or afraid. Emotional manipulation is a key control tactic. Outlets that focus heavily on celebrity news, often use as distraction from more important stories. Sources that never admit mistakes. Credible journalism acknowledges and corrects errors. Media that demonizes the other side. Division is a powerful manipulation strategy. Outlets that present opinion as fact. Blurring this line is fundamental to manipulation. But here's where it gets interesting. Some media sources are actually committed to truth. These are outlets where journalistic integrity serves as a powerful shield against manipulation. Public broadcasting services, less dependent on commercial interest and sensationalism. International news sources provide perspective outside your national media bubble. Local journalism often focuses on factual reporting relevant to communities. Independent media with transparent funding follow the money to find the agenda. Non-biased fact-checking organizations dedicated to verifying claims across the political spectrum. But what about the truly manipulation-proof approach to news consumption? The habits that robots simply cannot corrupt. These are the practices that require what machines fundamentally lack: critical thinking, diverse information sources, context before opinions. These are your shields against media manipulation. Let's look at the habits that are truly effective. Number 1, cross-reference multiple sources. Never rely on a single outlet for your understanding of important events. As one expert noted, the truth usually lies somewhere between competing narratives. Distinguish between news and opinion. Many outlets blur this line intentionally. Train yourself to recognize when you're being presented with facts versus someone's interpretation of those facts. Number 3, follow the money. Understanding who owns a media outlet and how they generate revenue reveals potential biases. A source funded by pharmaceutical advertising will rarely criticize the pharmaceutical industry. Number 4, seek primary sources. Whenever possible, go to original documents, full speeches, and complete data rather than relying on someone else's framing. Number 5, practice media literacy. Learn to identify emotional triggers in headlines, recognize logical fallacies, and spot techniques like false equivalence or cherry-pick statistics. Number 6, diversify your information diet. Intentionally expose yourself to viewpoints that challenge your existing beliefs. Echo chambers are breeding grounds for manipulation. Number 7, take breaks from news consumption. Constant exposure to news, especially negative content, creates anxiety that impairs critical thinking. But here's the critical thing to understand. It's not just about which sources you consume, it's about how you consume them. Think of media manipulation like a rising flood. The viewers who will maintain their independent thinking aren't necessarily those with the best news sources right now. They're the ones who can navigate as the waters rise. So, how do you future-proof your information intake in the age of manipulation? First, develop your critical thinking skills. Question headlines designed to trigger emotional responses. Look for missing context. And be wary of content that confirms your existing beliefs too perfectly. Second, become media literate. Learn how media organizations operate, understand common manipulation techniques, and recognize when you're being played. As media expert Marshall McLuhan explained, the medium is the message. Diversify your information sources. The more varied your inputs, the harder you are to manipulate. As one expert noted, if you only have one news source, you'll be the first to be misled. If you have multiple sources across the spectrum, you're going to see the full picture. Fourth, focus on slow news rather than breaking news. As journalist Ryan Holiday points out, the person who consumes news right after it happens is the most manipulated person in the system. Fifth, pick up a book. Comparison between the health benefits of reading books and the ill effects of consuming the news is stark. While research has shown that visually shocking and upsetting news can contribute to anxiety, sleeping trouble, raise cortisol levels, and even trigger PTSD symptoms, a University of Sussex study found that just 6 minutes of reading a book can reduce stress levels up to 68%. As Thomas Kempis once said, "Everywhere I have sought peace and not found it, except in a corner with a book." The truth is, we're entering uncharted territory. The relationship between media and audience is being fundamentally rewritten, and none of us knows exactly how the story ends. But throughout human history, we've faced information revolutions before, and each time, while some were misled, others developed new skills to navigate the changing landscape, different approaches, better discernment. The media manipulation isn't something happening to us, it's something we're allowing, which means we have the power to resist it. So ask yourself, what makes you an independent thinker? What can you do to verify information before accepting it as truth? How can you break free from the emotional manipulation that drives today's media landscape? Find those answers, develop those skills, share them with others. Because, in the end, the most valuable asset in this age of manipulation might just be your ability to think critically, seek diverse perspectives, and maintain emotional distance from the content designed to control you. The media manipulation machine is powerful, but with the right skills, you won't just avoid being manipulated, you'll become immune to it. If you found this video helpful, hit that subscribe button and share it with someone whose worldview might be manipulated. And let me know in the comments, what do you think is the most trustworthy news source today? Also, if you want to watch another eye-opening expose, check out this video on your screen here.